Odds are good you've seen this bust before. Even if you're not an Egyptologist, this statue of Nefertiti is perhaps as iconic as Tutankhamun's world-renowned funerary mask. Her remarkable bone structure and long neck give the impression of a likeness that is both true to life and also high and aristocratic. She's shown neither in the classical ancient Egyptian style, so traditionally bereft of idiosyncratic features, nor in the exaggerated Amarna style with prominent chins and cheekbones. We'll never know what Nefertiti looked like in real life, but there is something about this statue that is lifelike, in a way very few ancient Egyptian pieces are. Personally, I find every detail of it captivating, and I'm hardly alone. But underlying this beauty and the fame that this 18th dynasty queen has attracted, there's a mystery. Presently, the bust resides in the Neues Museum in Berlin, and although it's moved around a lot since its discovery, it has spent the last 110 years in one part of Germany or another. The question asked by the Egyptian government might be, how did she get there? In the rush to excavate Egypt between the early 1800s and the first quarter of the 20th century, the financial backing for those excavations often came from outside of Egypt. If you've been watching my videos about the Tutankhamun excavation, then you'll remember how Lord Carnarvon was the financier. This was fairly typical. There was a standing arrangement between the excavators and the Egyptian authorities, which took the general shape that Egypt got first claim on excavated items, and usually they would choose to keep in Egypt anything that was unique or notable, and foreign museums would be left what was unclaimed. In general, items in museums rather than private collections are there with the historic permission of the Egyptian government of the time, but only in general. The conversation around whether these items were legitimately exported or looted is and should be a nuanced one, but it isn't very nuanced in the case of Nefertiti's bust. Let's talk about it. The bust was found in a studio run by a sculptor called Thutmose in the ruins of the city of Akhetaten, now called Amarna. It isn't inscribed or labelled, and in fact is thought now to be a model for future statues, but we infer that it depicts Nefertiti because of the headdress she wears, which is very distinctive and we can see her wearing in other depictions from the time. The core is actually limestone, but the surface is shaped stucco. The colours that we see today are original, and all that's missing from the model is the quartz inlay for one of her eyes. It's possible this is intentional. If the bust is a model for other works, perhaps the sculptor Thutmose left the iris out of the left eye, so that the underlying shape of the eye could be easier to replicate. But either way, no missing quartz piece has ever been found. I would say this statue is the definition of unique and notable, so why isn't it in Egypt? Well, it was discovered by Ludwig Borchardt, working for the Deutsche Orientgesellschaft in 1912. And immediately he, like almost everyone who has clapped eyes on the statue, fell in love with the artistry of the thing, and he went to pains to have it consigned to German custody. Allegedly, when presenting photographs of the trove discovered in that round of excavations to the officials, the bust had been deliberately photographed poorly to diminish its beauty, and later when the artefacts from the dig were physically inspected prior to being claimed by the Egyptian authorities, the bust was concealed and listed as being made of gypsum, the lightweight mineral used to make plaster and blackboard chalk. As such, it wasn't claimed by the authorities and was sent to Germany with everything else that was left over. The controversy started very soon thereafter. When the beauty and nature of the statue was revealed, the appeal for repatriation began and continues to this day. I think it's an interesting example in the discussion of theft and plunder. It shows that on paper an item might well have been given in good faith, but only under false pretenses. The DOG denied any malpractice and shrugged off the statue's appearance in Germany as carelessness on the part of the Egyptian Antiquities Service. Even so, the statue was not offered for return to Egypt, so it's hard for me to convince myself that the DOG was innocent of any bad faith. Recent events have given rise to a lot of conversations about imperialism, and practices such as European countries getting their grubby mitts on Egyptian antiquities, and the various circumstances under which that happened. These conversations are a good thing, because the truth is, wherever you stand on repatriation of artefacts in general, some antiquities were removed from their place of origin through lawful and legitimate mechanisms, and a great many were not. And we all draw the line in different places. I think human remains should be repatriated universally, for example. Likewise, articles belonging to cultures that still exist and did not consent to those articles being removed, particularly indigenous cultures who generally are not represented by the governments gaily giving away all of their artefacts. There's a lot of nuance to be found in this discussion, though there are folks on all sides who disagree that there's nuance, and think either everything or nothing should be repatriated. I can't agree with either of those positions, but I think we all benefit from standing in any given museum and asking that first, most important question: how did she get here? Thanks for watching. For more on this kind of thing, I did a short series last year about the Rosetta Stone, and I asked questions along this line there. Please do stick around and subscribe, and if you had a good time, consider smuggling the like button home by pretending it isn't that interesting or important. The antiquarians who poke through my collection and decide which bits should stay and which should go are my backers at patreon.com/armchairegypt. My thanks to them as always, and until next time, my fellow armchair Egyptologists, life, prosperity and health to you all. Thanks for watching. Head over to my channel for more, or click here to see what the YouTube demons think you should watch next. I hope you'll consider subscribing. If you'd like to support and collaborate on the channel with me, go to patreon.com/armchairegypt. You can also join my Discord community, there's an invite link in the description.